So strap on your VR headset because we're about to transport you into the captivating world of Ghosts of Tabor. Welcome to Tabor Radio. Hey, welcome to this episode of Tabor Radio. Today we're joined with another fun one. Last month we had the lead modeler, and now this month we have the lead environment artist for Ghosts of Tabor.
This came recommended too.
Yeah, from Soul, I believe. Soul was like, hey, you guys got to get Sebastian on, so I'm excited for this one. So, Sebastian, before I get carried away, do you mind to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us, what you do over at Combat Waffle and Ghosts of Tabor.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me. Just to say a few things about me. I don't know. I've started 17 years ago working in games industry, and I've been working as a character artist and for the most time as an environment artist. But in time, I've developed new skills, a little bit of blueprinting, game development stuff in general, and I ended up here at Combat Waffle. I was recommended by Ray. We used to work together for a brief time, and I guess he remembered me fondly. So he asked me like, "Hey, would you want to join this? We're making this new game in VR, which is inspired by games like Tarkov, and man, that was right up my alley. To be honest, I was so excited to hear that somebody is actually trying to do something like this, and I immediately said yes. I think without hesitation. Um, I left I was doing and joined this team. And we were still having a great time here.
So do you want to take us back, 17 years ago? How did you
Yeah.
get started in this side of things?
Oh, I have to go even further back if you wanna. If
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
need an answer to that, but I started as with traditional arts as a kid, um, and as I grew up, I started learning computer graphics, and from that I ended up wanting to so badly to be in the games industry. I was in love with playing games, but I was for the first time when I got a little bit older, I was actually able to work in this industry, and I took the chance, right, and joined the company, a local company. Uh, they were developing AAA games at that time, but it was my first job in this industry. I even to this day I can't believe how lucky I was to get that job, and I was creating really interesting characters, but it didn't. uh, I'm still doing character. I'm still modeling from time to time, but for the most part, I'm doing environment art because creating worlds, I think, is the most interesting part. Like, games, they need worlds, and that's the first thing that you gotta create, and you gotta make sure that it's just right. Characters, they can wait, but environments, I think that's what it is
That's
for
what
me
it-
at least.
So what games did you work on over the most, over those 17 years? I don't expect, notable like Grand Theft Auto 5 or anything like
No,
that, but
nothing.
what were some of the things that you worked on,
Nothing. I
that led
think
you
the
here?
most, yeah, I think the most not noteworthy ones that you maybe would recognize. It's one of it's like a version of Splinter Cell for mobile, and I'm pretty sure it's very unknown, but that was something. And a lot of other mobile games. I think they were successful for the platform, but um, yeah,
And,
I
and
don't think that they're worth mentioning, to be honest. The mobile industry is very interesting. I'm not part of it anymore, although I was involved with mobile gaming and I was making mobile games. But um, right now, I think the best mobile gaming is on VR. It's with Quest, and I think I think I am where I'm supposed to be right now, and it's a big difference from the rest of the mobile industry, which is it's pretty alien for me. It's nuts. But with VR, I can understand VR. It's um I've started actually in 2016 with VR, and I was completely over my head with that, and I'm still, yeah, I still very like this area of gaming. For
And
me, it's
you mentioned that you got introduced through Ray, and you did some work with Ray previously. What was that work with Ray?
um we were working on a project for metaverse, yeah. But I was only doing the environments. I don't know too much else about the project. I was very much involved with making environments, and yeah, that's basically it. We didn't work as close together. He was doing the project management and other things, but we knew each other from there.
And what was the stage that you got involved with Ghosts of Tabor? Was it
Conception.
yeah, was it still pen and paper? Was there a functional demo of it? At what point did you get
Yeah,
involved?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they had the functional demo. They had the silo made, and I think it was right after the alpha. And when I joined, I started working on the next map, which was the island of Tabor, and that took me a few months. Then we had the first alpha release, uh, the early access, sorry, the early on App Lab, and after that, I didn't finish Island of Tabor because it took a really long time. But then I've moved on to make the marketplace environment level, and that kept me busy for a few months, a month, and then I went back to the island, and
So you had the early version of the island up ready in a couple months. That's incredibly fast.
yeah, we had to move really fast actually. We had to make it extremely fast because other than Silo, we didn't have anything you know, for raids, especially for raids, we didn't have any other map. And to be honest, I think we kind of went for the hardest thing to do. And when I realized that we only have like a few weeks until launch, I didn't panic. Or I thought, but probably everybody else panicked. And I started, wrapping up things, and then we took the decision, unanimously, to just cut it in half. But it's a long story, but to keep it short, uh, it was not designed to be just a half. To put it straight, it was always meant to be the whole island. But you know, then we get into quest limitations, and it's a really long discussion here. And I don't think an hour is sufficient for us to discuss all this.
Was that painful
Yeah.
for you as an artist to cut out half, or was it just something that
Mm,
needed to get done?
no, it needed to get done. It wasn't painful because I knew that we're gonna launch in early access, so we technically would have time to finish up everything else. But priorities, they're never as you expect. And uh, yeah, it's still not done, that other half. And uh, I I don't know what to say about it. Probably we're gonna make it at some point, but w- it's very very challenging.
Well, even as is,
Yeah.
we say it all the time. Islands. That's my favorite map.
Oh, it's still my go-to.
Yeah, we always say it, Island Boys.
I love the other ones. We play them, but we always gravitate to, yeah, let's just do Island.
Yeah, that's my go-to. So even in that half state, I have no complaint with its size. Or I mean, to me, it's the most expansive and like the most shit to explore
It's a great
and all
island.
of that. And did you work on all the other maps as well?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Is
Uh,
it? Do you have a favorite, or is that hard to pick?
hmm, I would say island, but it cannot be my favorite after all the work that went into it, and all of the changes, and the challenging nature of that. Um, and I'm sure not many people know how, when I'm talking about challenges, it's not that uh, we don't know how to do it. It's just the it's a combination of its size and nature with components like landscape and foliage for the trees and grass and things like that, and the clearly the size of course components versus the platform we're running on. And of course, I'm not saying that Quest 2 is a weak hardware, but uh, what we're trying to do there is a little bit too much for the device, and then we spend a lot more time on optimizing. And to be more precise, I think more than half of the time was spent on optimizing and not on creating the actual content inside. More time was allocated for optimizing. Uh, and there were multiple stages when we had to go back in and change things around and replace some things with more optimal things. And sometimes it resulted in a lot of downgrades. And I personally tried to add back some eye candy, some things in return, where we're not just taking things out, but we should add more things, and we should preserve the gameplay and the good features we had with it. Because you can, if you have like really terrible performance issues, then your first idea would be to just cut content entirely. Oh, just remove that. Just when we removed the half of the map, we took that in consideration because we didn't have time to even make it, not to optimize it. And we didn't even care about optimization at that stage because we didn't have the map playable anyway. So the optimization would have to come in later, and it did. But at launch, it was not optimized. It was, and I'm sorry for that. And I know as a player, it's very hard to play a game when you have like 15 FPS in VR. It's not a good time, and it I am embarrassed, but there's so much you can do. And for the longest time, I've been alone doing the maps. And then after we released the early access, we had help from different people. They've been in the team. Not all of them are still here. We Right now we have two more people in this team, so we're three in total now. I
Well,
think it's big difference. It's a lot better.
it should always be noted the time frame in which this game came from an
Yeah.
idea to allowing the public to play it and putting it on App Lab.
Less
So-
than a year.
Exactly. So it's like you should feel nothing but proud of everything that you were able to contribute as the other teams contributed to make this happen. Because I mean, literally, one could argue even with an aggressive studio, it should be at least 2.5 years, and then maybe a slower studio up to 5 years. It's just unheard of
For under a year. And it's worth noting too, it's one thing how it launched, but the environments in Island have improved so much.
since the first, yeah, a 1,000,000%.
The grass,
And then
the
when
water.
when we got the PCs and were able to play it on PC VR, we even got to appreciate it more. But I mean, I think people understand and know the limitations of, like this headset's nothing but power, and this one, unfortunately, isn't going to give you all the resources you need to be able to do all the things that. But I love the fact that people are trying. Like let's try. Okay, we're going to fry a headset if we were to ever think of doing this. So let's just make it work, but never lost focus on the end vision. So.
And you mentioned the struggle with optimizing, not struggle, but time consumption with it.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
take us through what that even looks like? So on our end, we don't work with art at all. I have no idea what even goes into optimizing environments to make them, work better on the Quest. And, what's that process look like?
Yeah, that process is painful. Really, that it's not pretty. I cannot even dress it up to look like something remotely interesting because it's not. It's painstakingly going over everything you have in your maps. You have to manage every model, every texture, every material, everything you have to take into account, and nothing. And it's still not perfect. What we're doing is still needs refinement, but that we have challenges from all directions. The engine is its own beast, so it has its quirks, and you have to work around them. Then you have the nature of how graphics are made for the mobile platforms, because we have limitations in terms of technology. We cannot create the same things for mobile and for PC. They will never look alike. They will, sorry, they will look alike, but they will not be the same, and we cannot have parity in between them. But of course, maybe it's just common things that everybody knows. I'm just repeating them because you asked me about how this process looks. and and of course, the mobile look of the games is part of the optimization uh, that are made within the engine. So the shaders are simpler, the materials are simpler, and they look a little bit cheap, right? Maybe not so good, not as defin high quality as the PC uh, counterparts. So we already have optimizations coming from the engine when uh, we port it to Quest. And one interesting thing we're doing here is that we actually so in our scene we have the PC part and the mobile part in the same scene. We don't use separate maps. We don't use separate materials. They're all uh the same for mobile and PC, but they get downgraded and treated differently when we actually build for the mobile platform, and that helps us a little bit with speed. We don't have to manage two separate things, two separate projects. So, but that requires a lot of attention, because we need to know exactly how they will scale for mobile, and they don't cost a lot, and we have to constantly monitor the we call them draw calls, is how many things you are drawing on your screen. So that's a big part of the process. And then the other big part is the polygon, the triangle count. I think you've heard about it, and it's been there like tens of years since the beginning. So we have to manage the triangle count, so everything is going to look choppier. And into that, we also factor in the level of detail model, which are, we call them LODs, and they are basically a lower polygon version of what you're seeing. When you're far away from an object, it's gonna switch to this LOD, and then if you're going even further away, it's gonna switch to a different LOD, which is even lower poly than that. So all that, and sometimes we have to use it lower LODs for mobile, and they don't look as good, especially not seeing up close. And with VR, you can see every mistake, every little thing with the graphics. You have no chance of hiding anything. That's the hardest part, I think, because you have them right next to your eyes, and you see all of the mistakes, all of the shortcomings, um, and we have to hide them somehow. It's really difficult. Not gonna lie, but it's hard to explain exactly how we're doing. I'm just trying to get you guys a picture of.
Yeah, in
But it's the
terms that
job. It's
we'll
the job, and
understand.
It sounds like weeks and weeks of painstaking
Mhm.
work to pull off. I could see pulling one's hair out doing it.
Yeah, we had somebody explain it to us. Correct me if I'm wrong with the triangles. All graphical work is just breaks down to just a bunch of different triangles, mini triangles, and the computer or the device, and in this case, the Quest, it
mm,
has a limit to the amount of total triangles it can handle. Is that correct?
it's not necessarily limited, but as you go further and you have more of them, it's gonna slow down the system so much that it's gonna be unplayable. Probably it's gonna crash at some point, because it's gonna be impossible for it to even compute everything. Um, but yeah, the triangles and the materials there, because every triangle has a material applied to it. Materials is like what you see, colors and shading and things like that, that nature. And we have to manage that.
the materials
Uh,
themselves, that those take up resources on the headset as well too, not just the triangles themselves.
yeah, no, every triangle has to have like a material assigned to it, and the materials they differ in complexity. Some of them are pretty simple and they render pretty fast, so you won't see a performance here. But with others, they're so complicated because we're doing different things with them. So I can give you an example. We have a material that we apply on a wall, and it's just a brick wall, right? That's a pretty not the simplest, but it's a simple material. It's a normal material. But then you have the grass, which the grass, the actual geometry does not move, but you will see it sway in the wind. That's an effect given by the material and the shader, and how we combine different nodes in the material so that it gives the illusion that the grass is moving in the wind. That's just a trick in the material. The actual geometry does not move at all. It's static, but you have this effect going on, and that's pretty expensive because it requires a lot of computation, and things like that. They don't get to go on the quest. But speaking of that, we can return to these discussions because now we have Quest 3. For the longest time, we didn't have Quest 3. Now we can talk about some nice things, some pretty looking graphics because we have Quest 3, which is actually 2 times faster. And yeah, it's pretty great.
I don't expect it to be 1-to-1 with PC VR, but I mean, how does the Quest 3 compare with developing for PC VR versus, the Quest 2?
Yeah, versus the Quest 2, there's no difference in how it looks. You can do the same things you do on the Quest 2. It's the same thing, but the performance is helping you get more of that consistently. We have more FPS, so we don't have the nice things on Quest 2, not because it's not capable of delivering them. It's not capable of the frame rates we need. At least 35, in the worst cases, and then with a lot of players for sure, it's gonna drop to 35, and we have to compensate with other things. Um, but with Quest 3, you can render it much faster, so then we can have those features. Otherwise, we have to remove them. You cannot play it with under 35 FPS no matter what. So we're not gonna give you those options. Uh, we have to take them up, and a lot of other sacrifices had to be made on Quest 2, especially with the materials. Compared to PC and Quest, compared to PC, we don't have roughness and metallic, and that means everything looks flat. And that's one of the worst optimizations that we had to do, because the materials, they get very expensive when you have the glossiness, the bumpiness, everything. Um, and high res textures. So we had to sacrifice all that. So now everything looks flat on Quest, and the resolution for the texture is not great. The resolution in general for the whole image is not great, and then you have AWS, which is just a frames compensator, and it's gonna try to double the frame rate so that you have at least 72 FPS, which is our target right now. But there are talks that we can increase that. With more optimizations, we take more time. We can increase that render, um, frame rate to 80, 90, probably. Ideally, would be great to go there, but I think realistically we can only do that on Quest 3 right now. As much as we would want to do it for Quest 2, we would have to sacrifice too much in the maps, and it's a fine line here. You can have like smaller maps which are looking much better with more high quality materials, more polygons, but they're gonna be smaller, they're gonna be more linear. And I can give you the perfect example is the underground map, which was made specially for, I mean, with that in mind, to have the best looking scenes with the best frame rate, but the map design had to be adjusted so that accommodates that uh, the frame rate, and that means a lot of corridors. and not a lot of empty big spaces, open spaces. We cannot afford those. Those are the most expensive. And the island has only that. That's the biggest problem. When you have a lot of corridors and close rooms, room after room, you can hide things, you cannot render things, and that helps a lot. But then you sacrifice the gameplay. I don't think people like those kind of maps that much. Mm, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what we're seeing uh in the metrics, I think I think Silo and Island are the best kind of maps that we can make, and that people want to play and enjoy more. And maybe we should take the metrics and work with it.
I
Yeah,
wonder if it's that those are just the OGs as well. So there'll always be like the most
I don't
established.
know.
Well,
Yeah,
now let's be honest. I mean, the openness of Island is why I keep going back to
Mhm.
it. It's like I love the other maps, but I play each one for a different reason. You know,
I think my ranking would go Island, and then Maka Underground, and then Maka Above Ground, and then I know people are going to crucify me. Silo's probably
Silo
my
last.
least favorite. That's so many people's favorite.
It used
though.
to be up there though until they started coming out with other maps, and
Yeah.
then it was. I was like, all right, I don't need. But a lot of people do Silo too because of the ability to get loot quick.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I really like to drag it out on. I mean, we're just rats.
Yeah.
So.
Maka's the one that, to me, I just love the close quarter combat, and I get so many NPC kills, get so much
Gets the
loot in
adrenaline
it.
going.
Yeah, so I mean, all of them are great, but is this kind of the negative to using assets and such, like the polygon count and the lack of optimization for it?
ye- yeah, of course. Yeah, the openness of the maps is causing the most issues for us. But they're the best maps, and we need open space maps because we have a lot of long range weapons. We have sniper rifles, like we have 50 cal. We have a lot of them, and uh, we need every scenario in the game. I don't think we have everything we can possibly make. So there's still plenty of maps and new things we want to bring. But people need a lot of options, right? If you only have island and you only have silo, I don't think it's enough. You want to maybe variants of those, or maybe something in between. Um, Options, as many options as you can. And even in my mind, even if nobody plays, Matka Underground or Matka Night, or I don't know which version of the maps they don't play a lot or at all. I don't think that's a really big problem because they have the option now, and they have, and we can improve them if we hear complaints, or we have feedback. We usually address on everything. We make improvements, and we strive to adjust every map we have to make it better. Of course, not only talking about bugs. Obviously, those are unwanted, and they should be squashed as fast as possible. And even those, they take time to fix, right? And it's a big part of our process to fix bugs and make sure that everything is smooth. And with VR, it's a little bit challenging because um, you you can do all sorts of things that in pancakes, in flat gaming, you cannot do. Like, you can stick your head into a lot of things, um and you can exploit that, and you can see behind walls, and sometimes you can even shoot behind walls, and we don't like that, and nobody likes it, and it's kind of it's hurting the game, and we have to adjust some of the things, and how we're making some things, just to avoid that entirely. uh,
So you guys have to react on the art side to how players are trying to exploit the game too.
yeah, of
What
course.
amazes me is how fast people can find
Yeah.
exploits in a game. I've never figured out. It's like your sole journey in life is to do just that. I'm going to stick my head into everything I can until I find an area where. And I've seen it in games, not Ghosts of Tabor, but there was a game we played where if I stuck my head into the corner, I had a clear shot of almost like a visual hack
Mhm.
of like every single player with no anything. It was like all black and just the players.
Well, check out this struggle. So you have input coming in from obviously just, the team, the upper part, how the map should look. You have your own inspirations. You have player feedback, and then you also have player exploits. So you have all those different kind of exterior influences coming in at once. So that's a lot to manage, I'm sure.
I never would have thought with a like environmental artist that would even
Mm-hmm.
be anything in my domain or my wheelhouse I would have to be worried about. Like it's someone else's problem, But apparently I am miseducated in that department.
So
No.
how much of the design of the maps, like I referenced, comes from above, is supplied to you the way it should look, and how much of that is kind of your own inspiration and ideas?
Oh yeah, we have a big list that was made prior to me joining the team. A list of locations, maps, and inspiration that we can take, and probably that's made by by Scott, um, and other team members before me. But I have that list, and I'm because they're all like part of the lore of the game. They're part of this universe. So I'm taking those locations, do a lot of research on them, and then we we try to combine it with other things, uh, and then present like an idea for it. And because we don't have a lot of time, we usually skip a lot of parts, steps, like having like really rough stages when we only have like boxes in the environment, that's called white boxing. We usually skip that because it's time consuming, and we have to move fast. So we're gonna go for something even more advanced, and then we work from there. Um, and of course because I time is up the essence, and I need to pressure upon that. We had to rely on some assets from the marketplace. There's nothing wrong with it, but the problem is that most of them, if not almost all of them, are made for PC. They're made by different people in different styles with different technical uh, uh, specifications behind the technical aspects. Basically, they're not for the same project. They're not meant for the same thing. They don't work with our system. They don't scale okay for almost never for mobile. So we have to treat them to work on them. But it saves us a lot of time than actually going in and modeling them ourselves. Like we can spend months and months. And I have the best example, but we're gonna talk about maybe later. But yeah, we can use marketplace assets, and we can speed up the process, and we can flesh out maps a lot faster. And usually that's the process. Um, you need a lot of people if you want to do it at a slower pace, maybe more. I don't know how to put it, more deliberate, with more thought behind it from the beginning, more design. The design process, like with a lot more steps. And yeah, because right now we had some layout issues with the past maps, and we had to adjust them accordingly. But we can actually avoid all that work if we spend more time at the beginning, in the design phase, and we can even sort out some optimization. Uh, uh, mm, some of the optimization can be done in that first process. That's what I. And
Yep.
oh yeah, and about the maps and how we were doing the maps. For example, with the island, it was started around a sketch in a location, and mm, most of it was just my imagination at that point. There's no island that I know of which is that small with pine trees, but yeah, we had to make it look a little bit eerie, creepy maybe. And yeah, because a lot of bad things are happening on that. It's like a secret location. So it was a lot of imagination, and we still have some ideas that we want to bring to that. And then, for example, Mod Kamiest is just inspired heavily upon Prague. I actually went to Prague to to gather as many references I could. Of course, I enjoyed those few days I spent there. It's a wonderful city for sure. But I was I was going everywhere, making pictures, trying to figure out the best layout for the map. And we, as always, we made it too big from the beginning, and we cut it in half basically. But uh, it's the same story there. So you would say that we're not learning from the mistakes, but we it made sense for us to be on the both sides of the river. The map should be we had two bridges that we wanna cross there, but it's so limiting. That map is actually a lot more challenging than the island. In terms of the complexity, the geometry needed, the original props. Uh, we couldn't rely on the marketplace almost at all because everything was uh, custom made to recreate Prague basically. So we couldn't borrow anything from anywhere. So that took the longest time. That map is it's a very very big map, and we worked so hard on it. It's like 12 hours per day is not even cutting it. I think we even surpassed that. And we had to use some help from other people in the graphics department from other projects. So I think we were like 5 or 6 at the most at some point, like for a few weeks. It was a big push for us. Um, and yeah, that's the the balance we have to strike every time. We have to move fast, but we have to make it look good enough to perform good. I'm not gonna lie, it's challenging, but it's the most beautiful part about this job. Um, it's how you blend those things, and of course, with time, you can sit and you can, I don't know, wait, work for a whole year on a map with 5, 6 people, and it's gonna be a better result for sure. But it's such a long time. Who wants to wait such a long time? And it's all economics, right? We're not a big studio here. We still need to pay the bills and to be efficient and productive and everything.
I can only imagine that relief, or not even relief, like that pride when a map finally releases after
everything's
all that
working
work
good
on
and-
it.
Yep.
But when we were talking assets a moment ago, you referenced an example that we would touch on. Was Maka the example, or is there a different
No.
one? Do you
No,
want?
it's a new map. It will be the best example for how long a map can take if you follow all of the procedures and you don't skip steps. I think it's the best way to do maps, but it's certainly more time consuming. And we're 3 people now, and we're all creating props every day, a lot of props. I'm not even. I don't even know if I'm allowed. Probably everybody knows by this point that it's the new map. It's the Chodov shopping mall, um, and it's just gonna take a little while. Uh, but it's going very well. We're making good progress, but we just want to make it perfect, as perfect as we can. Probably we're gonna miss some spots. We always strive to have you know the good looks and performance, but yeah, I cannot. You know,
Well, it doesn't surprise me at all with the aggressiveness of every department we've spoken to in Combat Waffle is just over the top aggressive, and not in a bad way, like attitude aggressive, just work aggressive,
Productivity aggressive.
like doesn't seem forced. It's like everyone's got this deep passion for what portion they're working on, but it's awesome to see how like every department is dependent on the next department to be doing their stuff. And
How much cross collaboration is there? Like, how much do you have to communicate with the other departments to work on the maps? You know, the developers, the programmers, everything like that.
Yeah, the most we had to collaborate was for the doors because
The-
those are part programming, part environment. Um, but in general, we don't. I mean, we well, of course, we talk a lot and we talk about the game, and everybody has opinions about the maps and how they look and how they play. So in this regard, we talk a lot. We exchange feedback and um, I think it's just, but they cannot influence us a lot because uh, there are ways in which we can influence the game, of course, and we talked about that and how we make the maps. It can influence the game, right? Like quite a lot, and the talks usually go around like, what can we do to stop people from exploiting the game? So that's always a back and forth between programming and environment. But in terms of how we design the maps and how we make them look, that this it's always up to us, the art department. We're not. It depends on how you want to ask the question, right? If the technical nature of the maps, yeah, we always have to discuss with programming, and there is a back and forth there. But when it comes to how it looks and how it plays, we usually decide that. And then I gave the example with the doors because that right in the middle when we have to make sure that the doors are placed correctly in the environment, they achieve their purpose and they work okay. So, it, yeah, but with doors, it's a big discussion.
Those pesky doors. VR knocks out legs. You know, legs are pretty good. Remember a couple years ago,
Yeah.
like legs were the thing that nobody could nail. Now games are handling legs pretty good, but now we've moved to doors.
Yep.
Doors are the big fight. It's always the unexpected of what gets you. And you mentioned that in VR, you know, you can stick your head into unexpected places, whether that's for exploit or just exploration. Are there any kind of hidden Easter eggs or little design things that you've left that players haven't found?
No, no, we found out absolutely everything. No, I'm not even kidding. It's and then that's why I love this job so much. It um after we release a map, of course, I'm gonna sit for days watching every YouTube video I can find, and it hurts me when I see bad things happening, people falling through the map, or having issues or dying because of the environment. It's not a pretty thing, and of course, I'm immediately jumping in to fix it. Uh, but but other than that, Easter eggs, man, they found everything, and it's I'm always curious, like how long it's gonna take until they find out what I put in there in the last patch. Only 2 days. The longest time it took for them to find the secret room, but it wasn't long. Just a few days. The secret room in the island, I think it was like pretty fast. Pretty fast.
Well, as aggressive as the studio is at putting out content, the fan base definitely is equally as. You just got to go into Discord, you'll see that. It's like there is a huge, passionate fan base for it.
We'll tell people that there's something hidden and watch them spend
my
their whole
God,
time
dude.
just looking for it and stuff. But that's
Running your
something
face around everything.
that's something you enjoy doing, leaving little, I guess, bonus Easter eggs.
Yeah, there's a fine line here too. We cannot actually leave anything we're thinking of in the game. We don't want to break the immersion. Sometimes we do it like you have to listen to other people in the team. And it's not me who's taking all of the decisions, right? But when I'm adding small Easter eggs or hidden things, I'm trying to not make them intrusive or for coming from like an alien place. Like they should be they should fit into the game and narrative as much as possible.
Yeah, I've seen other games do it where like you stick your head somewhere and it's just a giant floating photo of one of the developers or
Yeah.
something. But like you
Yeah.
referenced, it's kind of immersion breaking. It doesn't like fit naturally into it.
Yeah, we
Whereas
had
like
that and we took it out. It's funny, but I don't think it's worth having it
whereas
in the
like
game.
a hidden room that makes sense for Ghosts of Tabor. That totally fits
Well,
the
there could be a
lore of
vault
it.
anywhere.
Yeah. So I get it. That's a fine line though, because me personally, I'm not that I'm immature, but I could totally see myself if I was the one in the art department, maybe getting a
doing
little
something-
carried away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Getting called into HR one day.
And that's cool to hear that you go and watch players play when a map drops. You can tell you take pride in your work. And is that a big way that you're able to find bugs and stuff like that, besides players reporting them, but just by actually watching players play?
Yeah, clearly, just by looking at how they play, I can see bugs. But usually, they're bugs that people don't necessarily, care about or see, but they bother me. So I consider them bugs or defects, and I have my list. But the most important part about watching other people play your maps is the amount of insight I can get from them and how they play to make adjustment that would bring them a better, more challenging, interesting ways of playing the maps. And then most of the changes we've made to the maps were made just because observing how other people play the maps gave us new ideas. Um, and I think that's invaluable. I myself, if I play my own maps, I will never come up with the best ideas, because we developers, we play in a certain way. We don't ever run into bugs almost, because we're not pushing the limits of the game. We're not pressing on, all of the corners, every nook and cranny in the level. We're just very, playing like professionals, of course, and oh, keeping it straight. So nothing bad ever happens, and nothing interesting ever happens if you go like that. So watching other people, and especially people from all over the places, like playing all types of people playing. Like maybe some of them are more aggressive, others are rats, others are conservative, others are just super immersed and role playing, and all of that combined. If you see how they play, you can come up with new interesting ideas, and it's super interesting. It's super fun.
I think that's a priceless tip.
Well, and I love how as a studio they wouldn't be scared to deviate from what might have been a good idea 2 weeks ago, based on everything that they're seeing happen, might change the direction that's pretty good.
Yeah, I love that you're actually watching players play, using that to go, how do we
do we make
improve
it
the
better?
experience?
Yeah.
It sounds so obvious, but I think that's the stuff that other developers might miss. You like see how people.
Because you can get tunnel visioned into your own,
Mhm.
and you can have too much of a personal attachment to something as well, where you're going to guard it like
They're wrong, I'm right.
correct. Even though at the end of the day, if your focus is on the consumer and the gamer, and that makes total sense, right? But not everyone has that. I think that same focus.
And yourself, I mean, I've heard two answers to this. Totally different spectrum. Some people, they work on VR all day, then they go home and they love throwing on a headset and playing some more. Other people, they're, after working all day, they don't game too much. For yourself, do you still play VR or Ghost of Tabor in your free time, or are you all done after the 12-hour plus of artwork is done?
So lately, I'm only playtesting the game, uh, and we have to do that constantly, especially with environment. Um, One extremely important thing with environment in VR is that you have to constantly test it in VR, and we all have headsets. We all do the same thing. We check every model we make in VR, because when you see it in 2D on your viewport, it looks completely different on how it looks when you're in VR, seeing it in front of you, basically. And the scale, the proportion, everything has to be verified and then checked in VR. and make sure that it doesn't look off. It doesn't look. Of course, with mobile graphics, you're gonna see some. We talked about that, but even with the proportions, sometimes we have to exaggerate them because we don't have a lot of triangles. We don't have the budget, so we're gonna have to simplify it a bit and emphasize on some features of the model. So maybe make a handle for a door bigger so that you see it better and things like that. But we always check everything in VR, and especially with environments like if you don't play your level in VR for a week, let's say, when you go in, it's mind blowing. It's like a completely new scene you've never seen before. It's very satisfying. But unfortunately, I don't play other games lately. I've played last year. I've played a few new games, and I usually go for the co-op games. I think the board strikes that itch, and it's perfect for what I want to play, like VR games with multiplayer and co-op especially. But because I don't have a lot of those, and I don't have a lot of friends right now, I'm joking, but yeah, they don't. I am dependent on who's playing what. So if my friends they don't play in VR currently, it's hard for me to asked them like, please, can we go in VR and play this game or that game? So I am conditioned. So we're mostly playing like flat screen games. Unfortunately, it's it's not ideal, but things are going to change. There's always new games, and you know, maybe it's summer. Everybody's in you know outside, and yeah,
Well, and like you said, you get to play it, through
for
playtesting
a
it.
living. Yes.
Yeah, through doing it.
yeah.
And do you have to create a whole build and like export that to test it, or is there an easy way to test it in Unreal?
Yeah. We have some ways to test it in Unreal. So for the PC version, we can test it straight into the viewport. We open up our editor where we work, and then we just hit the button, and it's gonna go to the headset, and we can play it. Um, and that's it. And if you want to see it on mobile, we have to wait a little bit longer because we have to start a build, and it usually takes maybe an hour. But after that, it's gonna go onto the headset automatically through the Meta services and everything. So we just have to wait a little bit and then put your headset in and test. So it's pretty painless, but it's easier to test it on PC first. There's no way for us to test the mobile graphics on PC right now. There's no way. It's a limitation of Unreal Engine, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, fast enough computer. I mean,
Yeah,
1 hour.
is not. Yeah. No. Not the
Yeah.
end of the world.
No, not at all. And I mean, 17 years in the industry, you're what I would consider at this point an OG, a vet. Do you have any? If you heard that there's a young kid trying to get into environmental work, whether for gaming
Optimization.
or other sides, what tips would you have for somebody looking to get into that side of the industry?
Yeah, just get into modeling things. It's very simple. There are plenty of tutorials, plenty of info everywhere. Um, you can always apply for an internship, and the best school you can have is inside a company working on a project. Even if you're paid poorly or not paid at all, I think it's it's worth having that experience, because when you're learning by yourself, you're gonna get disheartened and you're gonna quit at some point. It's not gonna keep you up uh doing it. You need encouragement. You need something concrete to work on. But mm, it's so easy to start this line of work. You just need Blender. I'm a strong advocate for Blender. I've worked for the longest time with industry standards tools like 3ds Max and Maya, but after 15 years, I've got tired of the same tools. They felt limiting to me. I think Blender, and of course you're saving money, right? Because it's free, but you have everything you need to just start working on interesting things, and then you have Blender, which is free, and then you have Unreal Engine, which is the most powerful tool you can imagine, free at no cost. And there's no excuse, and they work so well together, especially with environment. And I think Unreal Engine is fantastic for environments. It's almost magic. It's almost it's a beautiful lie at times because it's so easy to do stunning environments, right? And then okay, and now what? I don't know. It's up to you, right? You can make everything you want. You can dream of it. It's incredibly powerful, but the only thing you have to keep in mind is that if you want to go on a mobile platform or you want to create just a plain or optimized game, a good optimized game, even if it's on PC, you still have to do your homeworks and to go into optimization and take care of what you put into the environment, not just download a bunch of objects and throw them in your environment and oh, it's gonna be fine. Because trust me, it's not gonna be fine. It's gonna be unoptimized. It's gonna start, especially with VR stutters. They're very bad. They're very bad for because they cause motion sickness, especially with multiplayer. You cannot aim right. So yeah, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's very satisfying.
I love the advice. Just start.
It's always the same.
Just start.
Always the same advice. I don't care what area you ask the person who's doing what advice. Just start doing it.
Yep, that's our number one asked question that we always ask developers, what advice you have, and all of them, no one ever says go to school and, wait 4 years before you start doing anything. All of them just go pick up some tutorials.
Go on YouTube.
And just start learning.
Start learning.
Get into it. So that's awesome. And like you said, Blender's free, Unreal's free. Yeah. Just get into it. Start having fun.
Well, that's what, if you make the self-initiative to start, you're probably pretty real about it. And then you can parlay it into like an internship or putting yourself out there to try to get some work. But I could see where somebody would have like delusions and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
I'm going to make it Skyrim.
They realize, there is actual work involved, no matter how easy someone might make something sound. And then that's their wall that they can't overcome. Because at the end of the day, they really didn't want to work hard. They just thought they would, I'll drag and drop this world in and life is going to be good.
No, it's important to know game development. It seems like every side you guys are putting in the hard work, the hours, hustling.
Yeah.
The unspoken heroes behind the games you love is the people like Sebastian that are just grinding, making it great. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us, especially, on a Sunday like we're stealing you. But before we let Sebastian go, do you have anything else you want to ask him?
Probably a million different questions, to be honest with you. I just don't want to take up 2 hours of his life. But, obviously curious if he's been able to dabble in the other projects going on in the company a little. Or are you staying strictly, Ghosts of Tabor environment?
Yeah, strictly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Yep.
That's consistent with what the message from Combat Waffle has been, which
teams stay with the games they work on.
And not only me, the whole team. So Vladimir and Tobias, that they're both 100% focusing on Tabor. There's no involvement in other projects. Yeah, there wasn't a need for that. And we were so busy with what we're doing here.
Love to hear that. And then I guess the last question that's always on my mind whenever I'm talking to anybody from the Combat Waffle team is, do you have a dream game in your head, like a little project that you work on in your spare time or anything like that? Or do you like working on projects, not your own game?
Yeah. Of course, I have a lot of ideas. Some of them are sci-fi. Some of them involve sailing on the sea. Some of them are, I don't know. Yeah, I have a lot of ideas. But yeah, currently I'm not working on any of them. So
who knows? And maybe one day we'll be.
Not yet.
Yeah. Planting the seeds.
No,
maybe
usually,
one day.
Yeah, and weekends, we can afford to work on other things. But there wasn't a need for a niche. Let's see. There wasn't a niche for it.
Makes sense. So, like I said, definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us today. For the listeners, I hope you all get to enjoy seeing the the people behind the game you love.
Damn, you're definitely going to have an appreciation for the amount of work there. I mean, we all know everyone works hard, but I love hearing just the process.
What goes into it, the passion.
Some of it doesn't sound fun. I will admit, some of it sounds like it might not be fun.
But it's hard work, and I love the passion. You know, the map drops, you're watching people play. You know, it's not just the bare minimum
and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I love it. So thank you so much, Sebastian, for joining us. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to say to the listeners, the players of Ghosts of Tabor?
To the players, just be patient. We're gonna polish out everything that can be polished. We're gonna make that perfect game everybody wants. We all want it. So as long as we're all on the same page, it's just a matter of time.
Perfect's hard, but damn, you guys are close. That's what I'll say. Ghosts of Tabor is something special.
It's never not been fun.
So thank you again for joining us. To the listeners, subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars. If you haven't rated Ghosts of Tabor 5 stars on whatever platform you play on, get on that. Shame on you. Go rate them 5 stars, and we'll check you out next month. Ciao, ciao.